Hello, and welcome to the idtalks. My name is Anna, and I am the facilitator of idtalks. idtalks is a series of webinars that are brought to you by Salto Inclusion and Diversity, and I'm very happy and privileged to be doing this for many years now, together with a wonderful team of Maria from Salto Inclusion and Diversity Resource Center, the other Maria that is helping us with communication and social media, and our amazing, talented Olaja that will be doing graphic recording today. This season, idtalk is focusing on intergenerational solidarity. Yes, the Treaty on European Union states that the Union shall promote solidarity between generations, but unfortunately, still certain age groups, and not only the older generations, are sometimes treated unfairly, and ageism is creating barriers for real inclusion and participation. Intergenerational solidarity, on the other hand, has this potential to positively impact economic development, to bring added value to our societies, strengthen democracy and social cohesion. So this season of Spring 2026, we have been bringing you different speakers and topics around intergenerational solidarity and intergenerational dialogue to create this space for exchange, for exploration, and also for reviewing different practices that can support us to have a more inclusive and cohesive society for everybody. Today is the last talk of the season, and it's almost unbelievable how time has flown, but we are going to have an amazing, interesting practice to dive into. The idtalk practice today that we are bringing you is coming from Spain. It's called Amblu. And this is going to help us to understand what is the role of intergenerational dialogue in this changing social narrative around aging. Why is it important to address aging and in the intersection with women's empowerment and involving representatives of different generations? Why is theater a valuable tool to do this work? And through the example of I'm Blue, we will explore methods and tips that enrich youth work and intergenerational dialogue for the benefit of wider community. Today, our speaker that has joined us from Spain is Irati Moran from La Chivata Teatro. Irati is a director, theater director and playwright specializing in device theater and social mediation. She has trained through international workshops and at the Mar Navarro International Theater School, holds a master's degree in contemporary stage directing, and has also been a winner of different prizes, including first prize at the Madrid Young Creators Competition. I think she could tell much more and much better about herself. We're just really fascinated by the play and the practice that Irati is bringing today, and we hope that you will enjoy it as much as our team when we first got to know about it. Irati, it's my pleasure to present you and pass you the floor.
Thank you very much, Anna, for the presentation, and thank you all for coming to hear this presentation too. I'm a little bit ill, and I need to say that my stuffy nose is making my English even worse. So, okay, but I'll try to do my best. As you said, Anna, I'm Irati Moran, and yes, I'm a stage director, playwright, and actress, but I define myself more as a creator. And I'm part of La Chivata Teatro. You can see our logo over there. And it's a theater company based in Madrid. And we work with physical theater and we do social mediation. And we've been creating collectively since 2019. And now here I'm going to talk to you about our last play, which is called I Am Blue. Yes, I Am Blue, a play about aging written for four young actresses. Okay, why am I going to talk about this play? Because this play reflects on aging and questions how women are seen as they grow older. And to create it, we start this interesting process where we, as artists from the company, start exchanging letters with women over 60 and teenagers between 13 and 19 years old. And the script of the play actually emerged from these real voices. So our goal, our aim of this process was to see how women from different ages feel about their bodies. Bodies that are constantly changing, constantly becoming, constantly turning blue. But to really talk about this play, I have to start somewhere else. I have to start with my mother. Let's see. Okay, my mother is this woman here. This is a friend of mine, and this is me when I was a child. And this other one, I think it's a friend too. I don't recognize her actually. Okay, my mother has been always a very artistic person. She loved singing, playing instruments, painting, and actually she was really good at it. She is very, really good at it. But she was mostly self-taught. Her circumstances never really allowed her to study art. So she grew up thinking that those kind of paths were for other people, people with more money, maybe, or more talent. So art remained something she did on the side, not like something professional. Until one day she gets retired, and then finally she decides to study fine arts, something she had always wanted. And there for her, something opened. She felt this expansion, like all those creative parts of herself finally had a space. And she was excited, fulfilled, and truly happy, actually. But at the same time, she couldn't help asking, what's the point of this now? Am I not too late? And she felt guilty for not having started earlier. So she was living in this tension between joy and frustration. And then one day, something unexpected happened. Where? In the bathrooms of her art school. This makes sense. You'll see. So one day she was in the bathroom at her art school and she started reading the graffiti on the walls, messages written by women 40 years younger than her. And suddenly she felt completely identified. Those words spoke directly to her. And in that moment, she realized something very simple um, and very powerful, that despite the age difference, she still had the same doubts, the same desires, the same fears, that in a way she was living a kind of a reverse adolescence. So she started doing this beautiful photography project where she combines self-portraits of herself as an aging woman with images of those graffiti, as if to say, I still feel, I still exist. And that project and all the questions behind it became the seed of I Am Blue. Here you can see more works of this project. I wrote you down there the Instagram of my mother, just in case you want to have a look and see her work, which I find really interesting actually. So okay, why I Am Blue? And why the subtitle A Play About Aging written for four young actresses? Why? Okay, let me start with the title. I'm from Basque Country, which is in the north of Spain, and there we have our own language called Euskera or Basque, and that's my mother tongue. And in Euskera, the word for blue, we call it is urdina. And this color can be associated with decay, with mold, and also with aging. For example, to the gray hair, we call it literally blue hair, ili urdiña. Or when something has gets moldy, we say it has turned blue or urdinduda. So when we say I am blue, we are doing something very intentional. We are reclaiming that word. We are trying to shift the way we look at older women. But actually, that was the intention. But then really, reality came in, and that's where the subtitle comes from. Because when we, as four young adults, started exchanging letters with older women and teenagers, we realized that a lot of what we were reading didn't really fit with our idea of what an old woman or a teenager was. For example, when an older woman told us she went out dancing or that she was gay, we were very, very surprised, as if those things didn't belong to other people. And at the same time, when teenage girls shared their thoughts, we were often amazed by how deep and mature they were. And that process really confronted us with our own prejudices. So we decided to create a play where four young actresses read these letters from women of different ages. At first, they tried to represent them in a neutral way, but little by little, the stories start to affect them, to go through their bodies. And in the stage on the stage, the performance, as you can see in these pictures, appear highly stylized with strong makeup, performing an exaggerated femininity, almost wearing like a mask. But later, that image begins to crack. The makeup breaks down, and what starts to appear is something more vulnerable, more real, our truth, our fears, our problems. And the play, through physical theater and humor, explores ageism, sexuality in later life, and the pressure placed on women's bodies. So before I say more about the letters and about that whole process of confronting our own prejudices, I'd like to show you the trailer so you can get a feel of the play if you're okay with that.
A continuación, presenciaréis una obra que parte de historias de mujeres reales. Estas historias
I think we lost the sound somewhere in the process.
sí, también aterrorizantes. ¿Qué nos va a pasar a los 40? Historias que hemos modificado, manipulado, mancillado, agrandado, frankensteineado. O puede que no. Quizá no.
Campanas en el aire cuando llega, celebramos la fiesta de la reina. Colores, pastel contra el espejo, regalados ya productos de higiene.
Okay, so that was the trailer of the play. You can see that it has a lot of choreography and humor, but it's nice to see, but at the same time, we talk about difficult things. I'll talk about that later. Earlier, I said this story begins with my mother, but I didn't tell you why I decided to create this work. The truth is that when she told me about her project, it really hit me. Maybe because I had just turned 30 and I was going through my own kind of crisis. I felt like, in a way, society was starting to push me out of certain spaces, telling me who I should be, what I should want, what I should have already achieved, right? And that made me start questioning the expectations placed on its generation. And that's when I began thinking about ageism. So, what is ageism? Throughout these sessions, you've probably come across this concept in many different ways, right? For us, La Chivata Teatro, we approached it in two main ways. First, through the letter writing process with teenagers and older women, which I will talk about it more in a moment. And second, through readings and research around the topic. In this sense, there were two authors who really helped us understand what we were experiencing. Anna Freises, who has written extensively about ageism related to gender, with books like I, Old Woman, and Teresa More with her book The Age Under Suspicion. So now I'm going to share a few of the things we discovered through this exchange of letters between generations and some of the ideas that came out of our reading. Wait a second. Okay. The letters. So what did we actually discover through this exchange? So many things. I'll try to resume them, and then later with the questions, and we can talk more about this, okay? First of all, we became very aware of how society frames age. If you think about it, we tend to see old people as an echo of who they were, and children as a project of who they will become. Think about this. I'm sure that maybe you, in any time, you have asked to your grandmother or grandfather, what was this or like in their times, no? What was this in your time? In your time, as if the present didn't belong to them anymore. And this is where intergenerational dialogue becomes so important to me, because I discovered this thanks to the letters and thanks to the readings. Also through the letters, we saw very clearly how strong social pressure is, especially around bodies, around the women's bodies. We already know this, but for me, it was very shocking because many of the teenage girls we wrote to were struggling with eating disorders. They spoke about the pressure to be beautiful, to be perfect. And even if they had a strong feminist discourse, they couldn't escape that pressure. And that was so hard to read. And the worst was that a part of me, when I was reading these letters, a part of me, not all of me, but a part of me was willing to stop eating again. Because when I was a teenager, I also have eating disorders. So it was very moving to do this. Yes, I think that here we can talk about capitalism because the female body is also a business and a form of control. We live in a society that turns perfection and productivity into goals. And ageism appears here too, of course. We learn to fear time. We learn to panic when wrinkles appear, when hair turns gray, as if these were signs of failure. Failure. And I think that the crisis that we have in our life when you become 60 or 30, it's because of that, because we are failing. And it's not only about physical change. Aging is also means slowing down, in a sense, having a different relationship with time. And that's something our system doesn't allow. They want us very in the production system all the time. And it also can mean dependency, no? To get older, I mean, and that makes us uncomfortable. But the truth is that we all are interdependent, right? A 6-year-old needs care, a friend needs care, an 80-year-old person needs care. We all do. And that's something that I also learned during this process, like the interdependent among all of us. And capitalism is breaking that. It's ending up with the community and with the will of helping each other. Another thing we discovered through the letters was that we started to see both difference and connections very clearly, um, among the teenagers and the women over 60. And one of the things that we saw very clearly is that if teenage girls were already suffering deeply because of how they are seen, on the other hand, many older women told us something very different. Yes, aging can be difficult, but it can also bring a kind of freedom. Because when you no longer fit into that society, in what society considers desirable, something shifts, right? You stop trying to please that external gaze, that male gaze, that you have been trying to please during your whole life, and having a process of frustration. And little by little, you start to let go. And that can be incredible, liberating. Or that's what we read in our exchange of letters. Also, as I said before, we have such a fixed idea of what an older woman is supposed to be that we forget something very simple. And that for me, it's the key of all this project. That people are diverse and they age in different ways. So there is nothing extraordinary about being old and queer or old and going clubbing. So maybe the question is not how to avoid aging, but how to change the way we look at it. And all of these reflections lead me to talk about the authors we have been reading. Through Ana Freitas, this is the book I told you before, Yo Vieja, which is I Old Woman. Through Ana Freitas, we began to think about sexuality in later life, that great taboo. Have you ever talked about sexuality with your grandmother or grandfathers? I have never done. And after this project, I now I don't have them. They are not alive anymore, but I feel guilty. Why I didn't never ask to my grandmother anything, right? It's a great taboo. And that's why we get very surprised when someone tell us that she has many boyfriends and that she's 80 and that she has many boyfriends, and not boyfriends, like lovers, that she doesn't want to have a boyfriend, but because that needs to have a kind of cares that she doesn't want to do. So and we get surprised, but she's a person, why not, right? And with her, we allowed ourselves to imagine what she calls the utopia of old age. She in her book, she reflections about this, what would be an utopia for an old age. And we, during the letter exchange, letter writing process, we ask our women what would what would be for them an utopia. And it was very interesting, the different things and feelings about an utopia. Teresa Moure brought light in our research. I recommend you to read it. Her book, The Age Under Suspicion. because it became a real guide for us. It helped us see things differently, to question what we had taken for granted. Because in the end, overcoming prejudices, prejudices around ageism, means questioning age itself, putting it under suspicion. And I like to share to you two main ideas from her, which I find very beautiful. The first one is that she says that maybe it's not about trying to erase the marks of time on our skin, but about letting go of this idea that life is made up of fixed, rigid stages. That we are not first larva, then a chrysalis, I think, yeah, chrysalis, and finally a beautiful butterfly. No, that during our whole life, we are many times larva, many times chrysalis, and many times butterfly. And she also asks if we are able to accept that there are as many genders as there are individuals. Couldn't we think about age in the same way? And I think that this question is very simple and at the same time very powerful, no? Because again, we think about we need to remember that we are diverse and that it is not a way of being old. And that puts the age under suspicion. Okay. So the impact. We're coming to the end of the presentation. And I like to share what happened when the piece finally met an audience. Because in theater, we always say a piece, a play, isn't finished until someone is there to watch it. So what happened with I Am Blue? Our initial intention was to create an intergenerational play, but in a way, really, that idea came to life more than we expected. We had groups of older women and younger women coming to see the show because word had spread. And something we heard again and again and again. So they were telling us, I want to come back with my mother. I want to come back with my granddaughter. And for us, that was very meaningful. I felt like the play was actually creating a space for a dialogue between generations. And even though the work is centered on women's experience, many men told us they deeply connected with it too. Because in the end, ageism affects to everyone in different ways, of course. And I need to say here that we exchanged letters with women from Spain. Almost none of them were immigrants, just because the women that wanted to come to our project were from Spain. So we talk about that reality, and we know that there are a lot of more realities that we are not talking about. So not only gender affects to the way that you get old. I think that in the end, we can say that this is a play that makes people laugh while talking about things that are not easy, things that are complex and often uncomfortable. And as I said before, the goal of the project has been to build bridges between generations and to encourage us to look at each other with curiosity instead of judgment. And I truly feel that we have achieved that. And on a personal level, I can say this play has transformed me. It has helped me resist the pressure on my body. Maybe it's my age, but I think that the play like really helped me. And also the expectations that come with the age. I'm currently pregnant, I have to say, and I can already feel a new set of pressures appearing about who I should be, how I should behave. And I think that thanks to the play and thanks to the things that I have read, I'm now strong enough to don't hear them or to fight against them. And I'm very thankful to my mother and to the women that we wrote to, because and to Teresa Mori and Ana Freitas for all these reflections that now make me see life in a different way. And I really don't know if this play have the power to truly change someone, even this talk or this ID talk that you've been doing. But I really would like to, I really would love for a woman like my mother to feel that she can still dream, to believe that her work matters, that she can succeed, and that in artistic spaces, in open calls, in exhibitions, or even in a classroom, she's not seen as someone who missed her chance. I will love that. And I also hope that this talk at least makes you want to reach out to talk to your mother, your father, your grandmother, to read Teresa More or to read Ana Freitas. And above all, as we say in the play, to keep looking at each other with eyes full of wonder. And thank you very much. Now I think that Anna, you are going to say something, and then we're going to do a little exercise. But okay, I'm done with the presentation.
Thank you so much, Irati. It was Mother's Day yesterday in Armenia, and I'm away from home. So actually, it was like, yeah, how differently we could look at our parents or our grandparents if we really pass beyond our bias and our way of thinking of age. Thank you very much for reminding this one more time. There will be a little task that we would ask our participants today to do, and I want to pass you the floor for explaining the task.
Yeah. Okay, so one of the exercises that we did during the process of writing the play was to ask the artist to write a letter to our future old us, a letter to my future old me. And it was very interesting to do that exercise. It's really short. I think that we can have like 5 or 10 minutes. So it's one, if you want to, you can write a letter to your future old you. What would you tell to yourself? Or if you prefer to do it in the other way, like your old future talking to you, whatever you prefer. I did this one, me writing to my old me. So I think it's a nice exercise because Teresa Moure says also that we have to learn to see the young woman that is inside our grandmother and the old woman that is inside us. So let's do this exercise. Let's see. And if anybody later want to share what they wrote, that will be nice. If you want to, I can start
Yes,
sharing.
please. Please.
Because as I did this exercise, as I told you, in the creative process, and actually what I wrote to my old me appears in the play at the end. So you're going to hear the translation of the end of the play. I I told to my old me two things. The first one, that I will promise that I will take care of this body like more better, and stop using it as it was only mine, and I will try um to leave it in the best conditions. And also I promised to my old me that if my that I was going to try that when she start to remember her life, her memories wouldn't be interrupted by bad thoughts or thoughts that hurt, like the last summer that when I went to the beach or to the swimming pool, I I started thinking about my body and that thinking about that wasn't enough or something instead of having fun and enjoying. And I also talked to her about how I felt um, that I would like to die. And I told her that I wanted to die in my bed, surrounded by my favorite people and ghosts. My mother, my father, my grandmother, my sister, my friends. And they hold tight my hand and they uh, kiss my, how do you call this?
Forehead.
Forehead. And then tell me to don't be afraid that is going to that everything is going to happen now and that's it. And in the living room is waiting La Chivata Teatro with instruments because in this old time they have learned to play instruments. And they goodbye me with what me and my old me still love, that it's love and spectacle. And that's it. Sorry, because I didn't prepare this part and I didn't know how to translate it. I'm switching to the languages and it was difficult, but something like that I wrote. So I would love to hear your writings if anyone wants to share.
I'm a huge. I live in Ireland. Sorry, I'm from Wales. I live and operate, or I lived and operate now in Ireland, and I now moved to Norway last year. So I have a range. You made me quite emotional. I've had quite an emotional week. I watched a TV documentary which I recommend to everybody called I Swear, which is the story of yes, some people have obviously seen it, about a man called John Davidson from Scotland who has Tourette's syndrome, and it tells his story. And I'm a person who was late diagnosed ADHD. So, and I'm also a parent to three neurodivergent children, one who has a very complicated profile of autism. So that was quite a journey for me watching that TV program in terms of understanding how we view things differently and how we need to view things differently. And this has put a whole new set of ideas into my head of how we can kind of merge these ways together. It was just really, I don't mean to sound cheesy, but it was just a really beautiful session and a really beautiful project. So thanks, Irati. That I really enjoyed that. Anyway, sorry, my ADHD makes me talk a lot. So I'm a huge fan of Maya Angelou. So I've taken a lot of her words and put them in a letter to myself to remind myself maybe where I want to be when I'm 80 or 90 or reaching the latter stages of my life. So you did the best you could until you knew better. Then you did everything that you could to do better. Life is defined by the way we respond to the mistakes we make. And also not by the number of breaths that we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. How many of those moments have you made for yourself and the other people in your life? So it's kind of I'm going to type it out and have it as a reminder because I turned 50 this year. So it's an appropriate time to have these conversations with ourselves, I think.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Very beautiful.
Thank you. Maria, you have a hand if you want to say something.
Yes, I have to say I got emotional as well. And I was even thinking of turning off the camera because my eyes were really tearing up. Thank you, Rati. It was really inspirational and moving. I was thinking what I would write to my future self, and maybe not that even like going far into the future, but few years from now on. And I think it would be about still having time because I'm 46, Faye, and I started panicking like 2, 3 years ago. How actually, maybe you just have to settle with certain things and just to accept what is there at the moment because there is no, I'm running out of time, and if it didn't happen by now, it probably will never happen. So I got scared, but now I'm thinking like, oh, maybe we still got, enough time to do the right thing, or for us the right thing to happen to us. So yeah, I think that would be the message to my future self. But thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm also myself a bit confused because I think at this age where I consider I'm in the middle. I'm 43. I wasn't even sure whether I want to write a letter to my younger self or my older self. Like somewhere confused middle I am. But thank you very much for bringing this perspective. I think it's not really the letter factor, but really this factor of trying to express our emotions in a variety of different ways as well is very important. Yes, Irati, you wanted to say something, and then I have something as a task for our participants.
No, it's okay. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. For me, it's also I'm getting also very emotional. I don't know if it's because I'm pregnant or not. Maybe it's because these topics are, I don't know, you cannot not don't feel emotional because everyone has a mother, father, everyone feels like in crisis or getting like less time for doing things, and it's not true. We just have to put the age under suspicion and believe that we can do what we want to and we can, of course. And that's it.
It's very interesting being a male sitting here and Irati talking about being old. I am old. I don't mind admitting it. And I think one of the things that our society is very good at the moment that we didn't do looking back is giving people labels. You know, it's a shame that people have to come on and say, well, I've got this, I've got that, I've got the other. Why don't we just accept people for what they are? I work full time still with young people, and the young people are always saying, you know, Terry, I've got HD, whatever, and I've got autism. And I just say to these young people, be yourself, be yourself. But that's something we're frightened of now, because if we say we've got something, it then forms a label. And all of a sudden, society, I know you're shaking your head from Ireland, but the danger is that in my age group, we didn't have that kind of opportunity. Many of us just had to kind of float along. And I don't believe people should float along. Please don't get me wrong. I think there should be help there. I work with a lot of young people in schools, especially. I hate the word in the English, special needs. I think it's terrible. I think, you know, that's what I'm trying to say in a way, that we give people labels and automatically everybody thinks they should jump and do something. I think it's important that we should support people that way. In my older self, all I've wanted to say is to be myself and continue that in later life. And I think I better shut up and talk too much. I think I learned that from my mum. My mum said, always be, Terry, what you are. Don't try and be something different. And I think that's been a good for me in life, because I do speak out. I do speak out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry, for bringing another perspective. But I think is also something that you mentioned there with young people and the expectations that they place on themselves, and also very often now exposed to much more expectations than we used to be before in the past, because it's not only the expectations of people we know, but also the expectations of people we completely don't know that are placed on us from social media and from other sources. So I think your mom did give you a really great advice of being who you actually are and trying to be comfortable with who you are already.
I suppose there's two things I wanted to say. First is that I'm running a reflective practice session this evening with a group of young people, and I'm going to use the letter writing as a reflective tool. I think it's a really interesting and new way to kind of do that with them. And the second thing is just to say the reason I disagree with you, Terry, is we so often confuse and we call the diagnosis the label. They aren't the labels. The labels are what get put on people that are neurodivergent, such as autistic people often get called weird, odd, nerdy. People like me often get called, who in the past with ADHD, lazy, talkative, particularly as a woman, outspoken, bolshy, troublesome. They're the labels. The diagnoses, or the diagnoses, whatever the right word is, are the key to unlocking the supports and the understanding that we need. I work as a neurodiversity consultant, and the main thing that I aim to change is societal attitudes and our key phrase that we work on is we focus on what is wrong for the person, not what is wrong with the person. Moving away from that idea that a diagnosis is a deficit. It isn't. It's a difference, and difference is not less. But I agree with the sentiments that you have. I just disagree with the language. Okay, and I'm so sorry. I really am. I have to leave because I have another meeting, but I really enjoyed today. Thank you so much for facilitating it.
First of all, I wanted to thank every one of you for facilitating this session and the previous sessions of this round, as well as the other rounds from before. And I wanted to thank everyone else also for attending, for participating. If I were to speak to the younger me, I would say not to trust people too quickly, to take my time and understand who the person really is, to protect my peace. Another important advice I would give is to keep working out and to keep taking care of my body, because health and strength will matter more than I think. To be patient with myself and accept that mistakes are just part of growing and part of life, part of learning. To stay focused on my goals, not give up when things get hard. Maybe to walk away from people if they drain my energy, and to also choose my friends carefully. But to stay close to those who truly support me. I think it's also important to learn to say no. To remember that time, energy, they're both valuable. And maybe most importantly, to believe in myself more and stop depending on others for validation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you really for sharing a lot of quite private and maybe also very sensitive information or feelings. I wanted to ask you to think, what are your main takeaways from today's session? Maybe also in the light of, on one hand, of creative expression, because we really wanted to bring you an experience that is about theater, but we also now talked about creative writing, letter writing. So what is some of the main takeaways that you have from today's session? And if you have some more questions to our speaker today.
Anna, you know I always have a question. While others are thinking about the question, I want to ask Irati about this letter writing. I'm really curious how you got people to do that. I mean, I don't know even for older generation if that's something, like they're used to do. But especially for young generation, I mean, I don't think mine, I have three nephews, I don't think any of them ever wrote a letter. So I'm really, and I don't think they would be happy to do it. So I'm really curious because I saw a photo of the like really handwritten letters. So I'm curious. And also how you reached out to people, how you found women to get into this correspondence. Thank you.
Yes, we have a whole plan to reach to people, but actually we finally didn't need that plan, because the first thing that we did was to write a WhatsApp message, and then we wanted to put announcement in the newspaper, and also send kind of flyers to the high schools or to centers to elder people. And just with the WhatsApp message, a lot of women wrote us. It's true that teenagers, there were less teenagers than women over 60 wanting to participate, but we felt really like we couldn't write to everyone. So we did a kind of casting. Yeah, we want the group to be diverse, but we were just four actresses writing to people, and each of us were writing with five people, and we couldn't like do talk to more people, because there is no time. The letter is something very magic, because it it needs it needs time to do it, and it's a kind of dialogue, but it's also a diary, so it's very powerful. And also you need, as I said, space and time to focus and to read it properly and to write it and to answer. Because when you are answering, you are also thinking about yourself a lot. And and that was a process like that. Like, I think that women were willing to talk about this. It wasn't hard to find the participants.
Aline is saying that my takeaway today is that I should always learn to make decisions, follow up my directions. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing this. Indeed, it's interesting how we approach our decisions with the perspective of time coming over as a layer to it.
Yeah, at the moment, Irati, we're just starting a pen pal project in a high school with some care with some care homes. Young people are writing letters to the residents in the care home, and the residents, we're encouraging them to write back to the young people. But also, I work in some care homes with some young people, and young people do different activities with intergenerational. And one of the things that's been very important is how young people are learning so much from intergenerational work, because sometimes people are put in care homes, and I don't mean this in the wrong way, but sometimes they're forgotten about. And it's very impressive that when you see the young people actually working with the intergenerational, like I watched a presentation last week of a theatre group from our school, a drama group, and how they interacted with with what the young people were doing. So it's very true that sometimes you can do lots of things, but it's a risk, and you've got to be willing to take risks, but not putting people at risk. But I think your story today, especially for women in the world at the moment, and the thing about equity, I better not get on that pattern, but I think it's very important that we don't forget about generations, and that young people, they take a lot of knocks sometimes about them. But one of the things is, if you genuinely work with them, you get a reaction from them, and I think it's about how you do that. But really, my question is, I think it's good at what you've done, but you've done it through drama and through theatre. Quite often, theatre can get messages across that people can't get across. So congratulations on what you've done and your work.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Terry, for the compliments.
Thank you.
And also for the work that we do. I think maybe this link between also, okay, some of these creative methods, what you have done, this is professional theater work. For this, you need education, resources, and all of that. But sometimes maybe these different ways of creative expression for young people in youth work also help to talk about complex topics like age and ageism, like solidarity between people, but also between generations. So thank you, Terry, also for doing this work of this pen pal project between care home residents and young people. I think it is sometimes we think this is beneficial for the people that maybe are experiencing loneliness in such institutions, but actually it's an extremely interesting learning experience for young people to get to know these ideas and the different point of view with people that maybe they don't have normally a connection or access to. Thank you very much. I think if Olaja is ready, we could actually now go and look at what she managed to capture in the meantime. So Olaja, we are very happy to give you the floor to share the graphic recording you did today.
Okay, so a little recap some visual nuggets about the talk. So there's still a little bit of a space for some of these reflections from the audience after the exercise. And really interesting to also not only hear about intergenerational solidarity or ageism, but also learning some cultural aspects that, for instance, me as a Spanish person didn't know about these nuances, how the language also shapes the way we perceive the world and that others are impacted by what we say. So all of a sudden having this connection of the color blue, which I didn't know with all these, negative aspects, right? So it was very smart to regain the ownership of the language and to claim it back. So I'm very curious, and I wish I could see the play because I haven't seen it. But my takeout from this would be that also resonating from other talks from this series, this season, is that at the end of the day, everyone has a story to share. And that is so important. Everyone wants to tell a story, their story, because everyone has one story worth telling. And it's just a matter of creating the channels and triggering the situations where this storytelling and this sharing happens. So sometimes we have seen that it was through events in nursing homes, it has been through festivals. In this case, is through play, through a conversation, a common lived reality, and then this food for thought that stays with you afterwards. So this is my takeout on today and on the closing of the season, actually. Thank you.
Thank you, Ola. One more time to close the talk today. I want to first give the floor back to you, Irati. If you have any final words or any reflections that you would like to share with us and our participants and audience.
Just to thank you all. For me, it's magic to be talking about the process with people from all over the world and doing the same exercises of writing to your older you or younger you, as we did here in our small group of 4. And I don't know, it's very beautiful to see how we all can get moved about this. So this means that we need to do more and about to have intergenerational dialogues, and we need to do more to fight ageism. So I'm very inspired, and I want to thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Irati. And because, as Olaja already mentioned, this is a recap of our season on intergenerational solidarity, I want to pass the floor to the coordinator of ID Talks, our colleague from Salto Inclusion and Diversity, to Maria, to say some final words to close the season.
Thank you, Anna. I think you and Olaja Irati already captured a bit of what has been happening since February when we started, and so I just would like really to thank all of you for being here for last 2 months with us and sharing your personal stories as well and connecting here. Also to thank to all guest speakers for sharing their knowledge and experience on a topic of intergenerational solidarity, sharing it with us. To thank my team. And also, I was thinking what to say. And then Irati, you said something, you said several things that really moved me. But I think this captured it so beautifully, what you said about the curiosity about, others. And I really hope that this season will help you to keep looking at, how you said it, Irati, I wrote it down, to keep looking at each other with eyes full of wonder. So I just want to quote Irati and to close this season on intergenerational solidarity with this, because I think that's the key. That there is this curiosity and openness for others. And I think we as people working in the youth work can support that, can help that by using creative tools or any other way of just to be there for people of all generations, and also to support the process to make this happen, also to plan it, to give it a little bit of push, because sometimes it won't just happen, just by having people of different generations there, but with creating this space and where magic can happen. I think that's what youth work definitely can do, and I hope that this season inspire you to do it. And yeah, we've been doing for 6 years, but it doesn't stop here. We are already working on autumn season of ID Talks for 26. So we will be coming back in September. You will hear more from us somewhere end of August. And we will be looking into what sports can do for young people and how sports can be used as a tool for inclusion and as a tool for youth work. So thank you so much for being with us, and back to you, Anna.
Well, there is nothing more to say. I'm really grateful for a season, but also to you, especially Irati, bringing a very different and very interesting perspective. I am just want to remind our participants and also online audience that you can check out the page of ID Talks, find an encyclopedia really of ID Talks articles that are mounting to 60 now. So you can go back and check those out and keep in touch with us using the official social media channels of Salto Inclusion and Diversity, and continue following for more ID Talks, but also other really interesting resources and projects from Salto Inclusion and Diversity. So I'm looking forward to reconnect in September, and I wish you a beautiful rest of your day. Bye-bye.